Hello, everyone. Welcome to the SavvyCast. This is Jamie, and I'm thrilled that you're joining today, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening to the podcast. I have a repeat guest today. She's actually a third time guest today, my daughter, Emma. And Emma is sort of a fan favorite. She has been on for several reasons, but her last podcast was when she moved to California right after she graduated from Auburn. And right after that podcast posted, the fires happened. So, Emma, I want to thank you for being back today. And that's where we're going to start because I cannot tell you how many of my Instagram and YouTube and podcast people asked about you during the fires. So, hello and welcome. And let's talk about California.
Well, thank you so much for having me again. I am really excited to be back, and your followers were so kind throughout the whole process. So
Oh, they're awesome. Well, Emma, okay, so why don't you, because literally my people don't know anything that happened specifically to you. Why don't you just set that day up? When did you first realize, hey, these fires are going to be a problem?
mhm. I had actually woken up around 5 that morning because my friend Capra and I were going to go do yoga. So we got in the car, and before I left, one of the guys who lived in my building, he was a 60-year-old man. Before I left the garage, he asked if he could pray for me. And he was like, I just have a weird feeling. There's really bad winds today. Please be careful. Would you mind if I prayed over you? Which was so kind, but very out of pocket. That doesn't really happen. That had never happened to me before. It was one of the tenants that I was really close with, but he had never asked to pray over me. So that's when it first in my brain clicked, like, okay, winds, like, why are people freaking out about the wind? Like, I had no clue, because I'm not from California, what that, like, strong winds mean out here. So I got to Core Power, and then ambulances around 5:45. We started seeing ambulances, like, racing down the road. And the fires didn't start till about 11 a.m., but I think people were already on alert of like, okay, the winds are going to be really bad. Like, I think people were starting to maybe get in place. I'm not sure. But I remember leaving Core Power with my friend Capra, and we both were just like admiring the Palisades. And before I dropped her off, I was like, I can't believe we get to live in the most beautiful place in California. We're so blessed. And then that's like kind of what set the scene for the rest of the day.
Now, Emma, was it not on the news, the local news? Were they not saying there's a risk of this, or did it just take everyone by surprise? Because at this point, it's just wind. There was no fire, correct?
No fire yet. I think that people knew that there was a possibility of it, but I wasn't watching the news. I'm very like unplugged from that kind of stuff. And at the time I worked at a law firm. So, I got the updates on what's happening in the world from there. But yeah, I saw nothing on the news before.
Okay. So you've done your core power and then you go to work.
Yes, I go to work. I get into the office around 7:45. And then around 11, I look at my phone and it's blowing up. My roommate's texting me, my neighbors in the Palisades, who are my best friends and roommates now, they were texting me and they were like, Emma, you need to get home. They were like, we're gonna, or not get home. They were like, you need to meet us at a halfway point, like the Palisades is on fire. And I was like, the Palisades is on fire. What, like so confused. I sat across from my boss, like his office is it was just like a glass office, and I looked outside and I worked about 30 minutes from the Palisades, and you just saw like a film of black smoke and red fire all throughout the Palisades. And that's when it started.
Okay. Can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
For those who may not be familiar with California,
Mhm.
can you just give a brief of what is the Palisades? It's like one part of California. It's not, is it a suburb?
It's the tiniest little community in California. It's on the beach. It's one of It's like I said on my last podcast, it's ranked one of the most beautiful places to live in California, just on a beautiful cliff, 20 minutes from Malibu. So
Mm.
it's not in the city, it's separated from that. You feel like you're in a utopian world. It doesn't feel like you're in LA. Fires, like it had been like 20 something years since a fire was in the Palisades.
And this is what's mind blowing to me because, as you know, where you grew up here in Alabama, we know days ahead if severe weather, tornadoes, or like we have ample time to prepare. It's very strange to me that everybody's at work and all of a sudden here everything's burning. That is So when y'all looked up and you saw it, when did the firm, like, when did everybody start panicking?
Well, that the strangest thing to me that I noticed throughout this whole thing is I looked outside and my heart was in my chest because everyone at the firm knew that that's where I lived, but the owner of the firm lived in the Palisades and then me. So like no one else who worked there lived there. And it was so interesting because we looked outside, all the attorneys were like in my boss's office looking out. And in that moment, everyone else just went back to normal because they're like, oh, it's okay. Like, we're safe. We live in West Hollywood, North Hollywood, wherever. No one was concerned because it didn't affect them, which that's what struck me the most is like the devastation. I think people kind of downplayed it because it's like, oh, it's not our neighborhood.
Okay, so really what you're saying is, because I've not been there. So what you're saying is even though you look out the window and you see it, it is miles and miles away, but you have the view that
Of
so it's not like if you're here in Birmingham and you look out the office building and you see a fire and it's really blocks away. Okay, so y'all have a view in California that's just
really extensive. Like from
okay.
Culver City to Palisades, it was like 8 miles maybe. But I think because it was in the hills of the Palisades, like people just were kind of like, oh, they'll get it under control. I think
Yes.
mentality.
Yes.
Because this was the worst fire in LA history. This and then the Altadena fire, which happened the same day, just in a different area of California. But yeah, it's the most destructive fire that's ever hit LA.
Okay, so you're there and then I remember the family text started and of course we didn't know what to do or how to help. But you said your friends are there
Yeah.
and you're meeting at a halfway point. You had nothing that with you. So tell how that went.
So basically, I didn't leave the office until 4 p.m. because I, at the time, was really, I just had the mentality like it won't happen to me. Like nothing can happen to me in the sense of like, oh, like, no, surely the neighborhood won't burn down. Like, that's not even a possibility. So then when 4 p.m. rolled around, my boss was like, you need to leave, Emma. He was like, go. And so for him to tell me to go, I knew something was wrong because he was very serious and like to the point. So that's when I met my roommate and my two best friends who were our neighbors at a halfway point. And my roommate CF had packed me a bag. She was home with our friend Emily and they saw the fire. They left. And the scary part was everyone was leaving. And it's like a little funnel out to how you can leave our neighborhood. So cars were piling up. No one could leave. There were
Oh,
blocks
wow.
and cars were abandoned. People were panicking because the fire's coming down and my roommate and my friend Emily were stuck in it where they can't get down. Cars are like parking and sprinting because people are like, we're about to die. So they were all freaking out, calling their parents. We met in Manhattan Beach at a girl's house who our friend Kennedy knew because she's from California. And she was so gracious to let us stay at her home for the first night. But yeah, I had nothing, but my roommate had like saved my Bible and my shoes. And I had no clothes though. No clothes were grabbed, so it was just kind of shoes, a Bible, my jewelry, and like essentials that like if everything burned down, I would want to have.
Well, then when did you find out? How long did you have to stay there and when did you find out and tell everyone what did happen to where you lived?
Yes. So Twitter was the only source, Twitter and the news were the only source of information that we had. So that night we were all just like, okay, this is the situation, but we're going to push through. We're going to be positive and just pray that like the firefighters can get it out. Lots of houses had already burned, but it hadn't hit our side of the neighborhood yet. So we were like, let's just pray that like they get the fire out in time. And then the next morning we woke up. No one really slept. We were all very anxious. Woke up the next morning to a Twitter video of the high school completely burned down, which I lived right by the high school. So the high school, it had hit, and I was like, I didn't see my apartment, but I was like, oh my goodness, like mine is gone too. So in that moment, I assumed because it hit the high school and I live point 0.1 away from the high school, mine is gone too. My roommates or my friends who were with us saw theirs completely burned down on a Twitter video. And then in the moment, we had no news about my apartment. We just assumed. So then about a week later, an influencer ended up letting us stay at her house for free, gave us codes, PR, clothes, was so kind. So we moved there and that's when we realized it was about a week after that our apartment was compromised and unlivable, but it didn't completely burn to the ground. So my friends who were my neighbors, theirs did, the high school did. Mine was in the middle. It was compromised, but didn't completely burn down. But it took about 3 weeks for us to be able to even like go back and see the state of it, what we could save. And then an inspector came. Our neighbors called an inspector and they basically said like everything needs to be thrown away, even if it's not covered in ash or anything like that.
The smell.
The smoke, the smell, and then asbestos, I think is how you pronounce
Yes,
it,
yes.
but it's a chemical where even, like, electronics, like, our neighbors threw away iPads, computers. I had all of that, thankfully, but they basically said everything has to be thrown away.
So you just realized everything had been lost, but then, and I believe you've said this on the family text and to us, but you have said, but I realized I did lose everything, but it was an apartment. It was
Yeah.
not a home that I built for years with kids and all that. What's one of the saddest, or just what's something that you saw that really made you think, wow?
I think through everything, and especially being with my 2 friends who watched their entire house go down, I think the saddest thing for me to watch was the people who I had started to, like, love and become close with lose everything. All of my neighbors who I babysat for, become close friends with the families, lost everything.
And they had huge homes, right?
Huge homes, beautiful homes, had kids, the school burned down, and one of the families I babysat for, we bounced around when we were, like, staying in different people's homes just because we never wanted to intrude, so for a week, we also lived in Newport Beach at an Airbnb, and the family I babysat for consistently was there too, so I hung out with them and babysat their kids, and the devastation of, like, watching everything that they've worked so hard for and
Mhm.
accumulated gone in an instant. There's something about that that is so it's just, like, it's unfathomable, the amount of damage and destruction that it did, because the whole neighborhood is leveled. Like,
So it's really gone still.
it's go and there is no I drove through the other day, and it's like, even the buildings that are standing, you can't go in them, you can't live in them, everything's compromised because of the amount of destruction, like, it is not just, "Oh, a few houses burned down," like, the neighborhood is ash.
So do they have a plan, or is it just who knows when Palisades will be?
They finally started construction on the lots, so, they've started, like, getting all of the debris away, and now it's just lots that they're selling. So, like, the lots themselves are going for 3 to 4 million on the small ones, and then the bigger
Well,
ones go anywhere from 18 to 25. So, just for the plot of land, because I think this is a real estate agent's biggest dream, because now, an area that was so affluent and had so many influential people living in it is now being rebuilt.
wow. So Emma, what did you learn? What lesson did you learn the most from that experience?
I think the biggest lesson is that things do not matter. And the plans that I thought that I had for myself, the plans that I create for myself can be gone in an instant if that's not what the Lord has in store. I think my original plan was to stay in California for 1 year and move home. But because of the fire, we had to move and get another lease. That lease, which I'm in right now, put me in California for a whole another year. So yeah, my original plan and what I had created in my head immediately shattered of what I thought was gonna happen. I ended up not staying at the job I was working at just because figuring out logistics with moving and life and just like the trauma of everything, like I couldn't handle like working in the law environment anymore. And it wasn't what I wanted to do anymore. So I think just the shift, like how fast things can change and how material things mean nothing because they're gone in an instant. And I flew to my friend's bachelorette the week after the fire with nothing because I had nothing. And I remember they all surprised me. My friends from back home made a list of everything I needed, and they looked through my TikTok and Instagram to find items that I loved and wore a lot, and they surprised me with it at my friend's bachelorette with suitcases and duplicates of things that I had that I no longer do, because they were thrown away and it
Mhm.
literally or compromised by the fire, but it seriously is just the biggest blessing seeing how people rally around you in a situation like that, and truly how the only thing that matters is people.
That's great. And then just very quickly, we were afraid the tsunami was going to be a problem, but it just sort of passed, didn't it?
Thankfully, yes, we were like when we heard that, I was just not back home, I was like, "This surely not again." California has crazy weather, but, we're so thankful it didn't affect our area because it is seriously, like, I think living in a place like this without you and dad and without, family, it is hard because I never if you had told me this was gonna happen a year ago, I would have been so hesitant to move out here because, I mean, it's having to get a new lease, refurnish everything, figure out logistics, fight with the landlords because landlords were saying, like, "Oh, because our building didn't completely burn down, you're still liable for the remainder of rent," which our
Mm.
rent was $2,300. Like, I can't pay that for somewhere I can't even live in. It's crazy the things that, like, I've had to navigate through this that I never would have thought I would've, but it's taught me more than I ever could have learned just being in a state of bliss and, like,
Mhm.
and nothing happening.
Well, Emma, you moved out to California right after you graduated from Auburn, and you have had a lot of younger people who maybe that's their aspiration. They're thinking, well, she did it. I can do it. And to be very clear, we're not funding you. Dad and I are not. We would give you money if you needed it, but you have I mean, you're paying your way.
Mhm.
What would you say to someone who is about to graduate, don't quite know if they could, but they're kicking the tires? What would you say? Because you've had to scrap it. I, I mean, mom and dad have not funded this. So what would you say?
Well, you and dad have taught me better than anyone else because you both are such hard workers. But I would say it's totally doable and it's been the best, most shaping and refining experience of my life. Living here without the comfort of family, without my friends from home, I knew no one moving out here. And now my community is stronger than I ever could have hoped or imagined. My church is incredible. Like,
Where do you attend? For those who don't know.
Vintage LA. So John Mark Comer speaks there. And then our head pastor Gare Jones is just incredible. But the community, so many young people on fire for the Lord. It's the biggest blessing because you don't think you can find that out here. So
Mhm.
community richer than I ever could have expected. It is so everyone is so, willing to help and network with you, like, the connections you can make out here, so
Mhm.
valuable to experience, and yeah, it is hard though. I The gigs that I do on the side, especially when I worked at the law firm, it was like, I'd get off work, I'd walk someone's dog, I'd babysit till 11 p.m. I'm doing gigs here and there with, UGC videos, content creation. You can't just depend on a salary out here because it's so expensive. But the families that I babysat for and, like, people that I've met with, the amount of experience I've gotten through that too, it's invaluable to wherever I go next because the people out here truly are so well connected and so willing
Mhm.
to help, and I would say that if you wanna move out here, it's so doable, but yeah, you have to really, really, really work hard, uh,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
know you're not gonna be living a blissful, like, just, like, lounge around and not work because you have to, it's so expensive out here.
But it's so funny. When I'm looking at the Instagram and all the pictures, California life seems very, I don't, this isn't the right term, breezy. Like people are at the beach or they're at the restaurant overlooking the ocean. And it seems like nobody's working, but I know everybody's working. It's funny. I don't know if everybody else who has friends or relatives in California, it just seems like it's another world. But you're saying that the reality is, yes, you have all of the trappings, but you still have to work. You still have to get up. You have to make money and walk and dog sit, do whatever you have to do to get to be out there. But you consider all of the beauty of California, you consider it worth it. So that's probably what you would say to someone who's kicking the tires. If it's worth it to you, you can do it.
100%. And there's an ongoing joke of like no one in California has a job. Like you get in line at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday for a coffee shop and it's wrapped around the block. And you're like, what are people doing? But the nature of that and what I've realized is the career path that people are on out here, everyone's in entertainment, content creation, social media. So 9 to 5s, unless you're in finance or something like that, aren't normal. So like
Mm.
I just started my own little content creation website and portfolio called Emma Torrance Creative. I run a few brands and social media accounts. And from there, like I create my own schedule. So yeah,
Mm.
I'm able to go to the beach if I want, but I might be working from 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
You just have to get the job done, but you don't have to clock in
no.
to a place. Okay.
And I think I truly would encourage anyone who is graduating too that like you do not have to go the corporate environment route because I did work at a law firm when I first moved out here, loved it. The experience was great. I did recruiting, but also like I quickly realized I want to be in a corporate environment, but don't just work a corporate job to work a corporate job because you'll end up being miserable. Like make sure that the job you take, like it's something you're passionate about, something you're good at, and you have flexibility to on the side like create a business or have a side hustle because I think people are gearing away from the like 9 to 5 office job Monday through Friday.
Yeah. Well, and then being a creative, you can take clients from anywhere around the US or whatever. So, like, what type of work? So, if someone just needs their social media, or what do you exactly do in your position now?
Right now, I do a lot while I was still working at the firm, reached out to this girl who did exactly what I wanted to do, so brand partnerships and events. Reached out to her, I was like, "I wanna learn from you, looking for a new position, like, looking to transition out of the role I'm currently in. Would you be willing to talk?" We had a phone call. Now I work, like, with her as her assistant, and she gives me gigs for, like she works for a bunch of different companies, and then I'll create UGC, which is user generated content talking
Mm.
about the product, advertising the product, getting paid for that, and then also I do events. So if a brand
So,
looking for like a brand ambassador or something like that, I'll come in and do that for them as well as I'm currently running about 5 social media accounts from like creation from like beginning to end of I'm posting for you, I have a content calendar, I'm helping you with brand strategy. So basically, I'm like a creative agency, but it's just me running your
mm.
accounts and
So, as far as when you say user generated content, meaning they don't hire an influencer like mom to
Mhm.
do it, you just create it from their
No, they would hire you because the reason that I got
what I'm trying to I should know what user generated content is. Who's generating the content?
you. So, like, a
Oh,
person
okay.
who
Okay.
likes you is gonna be like, "Jamie is so cute, so fun, and brings results when she posts content." So, we're gonna get her to use our product, film herself talking about it,
Oh, okay.
about the day in the life, and then it's just like your face advertising their product.
So you're editing some of that type of content as well.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Because that's my main like, speaking to the camera, talking, I feel like is one of my main, like,
Mhm.
skills. And then social, like, content creation too. Like, if any small brands wanna work with me, they just go to my website, reach out, and then I have packages that I can help them rebrand and all that kinda stuff.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I will put all that in the show notes. Well, Emma, what are your plans? A lot of people have said, do you plan to stay? If not, where would you like to move? What would you like to do next?
As of right now, I this is a topic in our house all the time just because we're all from the South, and LA can be a really hard place to live for a lot of reasons. But I've just realized recently, like, I have a piece about staying here, and then I also have a piece about moving wherever the Lord wants me. So I think that there's a few full-time job opportunities that I've applied to that really I'm super interested in and could do Emma Torrance creative on the side, but whichever one ends up working out is where I'll go because I've realized more and more like I do want some structure. I don't want to be my own boss
Mm-hmm.
full time, but I'm really open to anything. Like if the Lord has me here, I will stay here. And then if he makes it clear that I need to be somewhere else, that's where I'll be. My hands are really open. I have 6 more months on my lease and then I hopefully will have another place because I think Florida still is somewhere that one day I would love to end up.
Mhm.
Still, I just feel like it's not time for me to go back there. So I would love
Yeah,
to stay here and build my community further, but I'm open to other things if
yeah.
it's there.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's great. Well, you are a trooper. Dad and I would come visit more, but that plane trip from Alabama to California, I just can't handle. I mean, it's
It's a
just
nightmare.
it's as far away as we could be practically.
You have
So
to come out seriously.
yes, we really do, but the fires and having all of that and seeing all of that, that's a lot, but you've stuck in there because I know when it was happening, I was saying, just come home," and you stuck it out, and, you had n wonderful friends and a community in your church, so, I'm just very proud of you and think you've done very well.
Well, thank you. And thank you too to your followers who so many of them texted me. One of them lives in Newport Beach, Miss Jennifer, and she is so amazing and texted me the whole time, asked if I needed a place to stay in Newport, was so like just kind and checks in on me so much. And that is seriously so encouraging to me that like you now where your followers like truly do love you and
Mm.
family and are so willing to help, and I'm seriously so grateful because that's rare, and no one really has that, like, of a like, in the sense of, like, their mom is so influential that people are like
Well, my people, and I've said it, and I truly believe it. They are people that like would be my best friends if they lived next door. They're like mom. I feel like they're. I mean, even though we're all different, my followers are the best people on earth, and just the amount of concern. It's just real. It's just proof positive that you do not have to physically have ever met someone to really care, have concern. I mean, I had people offering to Venmo you. They said, "Can we Venmo her money?" And of course, I didn't let them because I knew you would be okay. Well, I mean, I knew you were taken care of.
yeah.
But it was just really touching to me how some of my people just were like, "Oh my goodness." So that is precious, and it makes me, and I know you always want to be that person when someone else is in need, and there's always somebody in need. So, but Emma, I do have to end because I do think that this is sort of a comedy of our family text. I want you to just point out where you live now is Newport Beach.
Mm-mm.
I'm sorry, you were the, but where you are now is a very nice part of California, but it's not the Palisades, but it's nice.
It's nice, but it's in the city, it's Brentwood, like, so
Okay.
it's in the city closer to, like, more stuff, like, Palisades was so tucked away, and this is, like, the city.
Okay. So one thing that people who might want to move there and think, oh, it's going to be great all the time, we get a lot of pictures on the family text of the homeless man that is accosting people on the street that's right under your window. And we're like, yeah, that looks awesome. So, Emma, I mean, that is a reality there that you run into a lot. And some of the people that are living out on the streets and mostly men, they're rude, they're aggressive. They come up, say things, do things. So, does that bother you?
I do think there is a heavy issue with the people here who are experiencing homelessness out here because, yeah, some of them are very aggressive. And one of my friend's dads works in a ministry that like helps get them off the street and, put them in housing. But yes, there are some who are very aggressive. There's one outside of our house who wheeled in our neighbor's front yard with 5 grocery carts. He has a phone, he has, like, he's, like, tanning all day in our yard, and then he had a knife and was waving it around, so we called the police, and they were like, "Okay, well, we can't do anything unless he's, like, dangerous," and he ended up assaulting someone, so he got arrested. But, yeah, it definitely is unsafe to, like, walk by I would never walk by myself at night. I would never go to downtown LA, like, I would never do that. But yeah, I mean, there definitely is a problem with the amount of people who are unhoused, like, on the streets.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's and it's not funny on the family text, but it's just you'll show a picture and we're like,
And he's wearing, like, a fedora on his, like,
yeah, and
collar.
we've got the hilarious Owen, your brother-in-law, who's always got like a little
Me.
a
Yeah.
comment about, yeah, California's a lot better than Alabama, isn't it? But no, it's just there are different issues there that we're not accustomed to here, and it's just interesting for us to see that. But all is great, and Emma, you're so sweet to share, and we're glad. Everybody's glad that you're finding your next step, and you're working in several different areas. And whenever you find your next big move, you can come back on and share.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me, Mom. You're the best. And thank you again to everyone who was so kind throughout the whole process.
Thank you, Emma. And thanks to everyone watching or listening. And until next time, you have a fabulous rest of your day.